Welcome back to step number 13. Just to refresh you, we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You don't have to do 11 and 12 before you do 13. 13 can stand by itself after you do 1 through 10, that is. But we'll play like we're just doing the whole thing together, 1 through 13. And so number 13. And so I started off by asking a question like this. I say, have you ever had a time in your life when something emotionally grabbed you, got to you, and then stuck with you for quite a while? Like maybe somebody cut you off in traffic really bad. Pulled right out in front of you maybe and slammed on the brakes, and you had to slam on your brakes, and you looked over at the other driver and they looked at you and laughed and made an obscene gesture at you, and then they sped away and there was no way you could catch them. So how would you feel? And then, oh my, be angry, and people say all kinds of stuff. Right. And then after you got home 10 or 15, 20 minutes later, there just happened to be somebody there in the driveway to meet you. And you get out of your car, and probably what's the first thing you tell them about? Well, most people answer, well, of course, that so and so that cut me off, and da 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 da. Right. So we call stuff like that, stuff that emotionally grabs you and then sticks with you, hooks. And of course, I'm sure all of you have heard of the term hooks. So we call them hooks. And so then we get into, what are your favorite hooks maybe? And we can talk about teenager hooks if you have teenagers and the things that they do to adults. And traffic hooks are popular. All spouses have hooks, and friends and stuff. And grocery store lines are good sources of hooks, where you get in the slow line, or somebody gets in the 10-item line with 20 items, that kind of stuff. People bump into you without saying excuse me or whatever. And all kinds of hooks, so you can play around with hooks. And then after you've discussed hooks for a while, then you can ask this. You think in the next year or so, and I'll even ask you, you can think for yourself right now, you think in the next year or so you'll have the opportunity to notice any hooks showing up in your life? If you're like most of us, you said, yeah. And then I'll say something like, well, how about 6 months? You think you'll have the opportunity to notice a hook showing up in the next 6 months? And most people will say, oh, yeah. If you're with several people, a lot of times by now, somebody will say out loud, I'm going to notice a hook in the next few minutes probably, or something, or at least by the end of the day. But if they don't, you go on down, well, you'll say, how about a month? You think you'll have the opportunity to notice a hook in your life in the next month or so, and then you'll week, and then how about the next day, and everybody, you just have fun with it, because we all have hooks. The end of the humorous thing is that we all have hooks. And the thing we want to do going out forward into the future is to gain the ability to notice when you're hooked. So literally with this noticing thing here, I, me, you, whatever would say, oh, I'm noticing that I'm hooked. I'm experiencing being hooked. So that's the noticing. Believe me, that takes some practice. Most of us don't have that naturally. And then after you notice being hooked, then you just notice what you do next. So it could be a toward move, could be an away move. I don't know. And it's not that you do anything else. Some people then jump into, I need to decide to do X. Nope, decision's not in there. It's just noticing. It's a noticing practice. So you notice being hooked, and then you notice what you do next, and then you wait then hopefully you'll pick up a hook. A lot of times people report that they come back and they'll say, well, I didn't notice the hook right when it was happening, but later on I thought back and thought, oh my goodness, I was hooked. And then I looked back in my mind's eye and I could see what I did next. Well, that's fine too. And what you having people work toward is noticing hooks and what they do next. And a lot of times the homework that I give in all kinds of settings, businesses and community organizations and therapy things and whatever, is exactly this. This is the homework, is to go out and notice hooks. Now, to do the homework, I usually say, well, could you predict what you think your next hook, what's the most likely hook that's going to show up between now and the next time I see you? What's the most likely one? Once again, the driving hooks show up again a lot, but maybe if somebody has a teenager or a spouse thing or a work thing or whatever, they have something. Doesn't matter. They'll just predict. If they don't want to say it out loud, that's fine. Just predict the hook, and then you got a better chance of noticing being hooked, and then notice what you do next. And that's what this is. That's all it is. Later on, and I'll go ahead and tell you, it's a little mini mindfulness exercise where you're noticing being hooked. That's you, one part of you. Noticing another part of you being hooked. It's really all one you, but humans have this ability to do this noticing, this detached noticing. And so you notice being hooked, and then you notice what you do next. And it's akin to mindfulness. And just imagine if you did 15, 20 of those a day, you would have quite a bit of mindfulness practice going on. So that's what number 13 is. It's called Noticing Hooks and What You Do Next. And the people I hang around with, and you're going to be hanging around with them now because you're inside the Soaring with the ACT Matrix community group, and we'll all be calling this just hooks. We'll say hooks. Notice any hooks? Did you assign hooks? Did you do hooks? Whatever. We refer to it that way. So there you go. That's 11, 12, and 13. So now you have all 13 steps, and you can add all of these together. And there's lots of other webinars and stuff around in the Soaring with the ACT Matrix. And so now you're ready to start taking off and start soaring with this stuff. Practice. Practice doing this exactly like I've done in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 process, or you can stop at 10 and go there. But very, very important to practice it one at a time so you get used to doing it. And then free form, do whatever you want to do. But it's a nice way to learn. So I'll be back. I think I'm going to do a sorting video next. So bye-bye.